Hi, Danville. Welcome. I'm Alan Shields, Chief of Police for the town, and I am here to, well, first off, we're 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to safeguard the lives and rights and property of everyone we serve, and we do that in an effort to make people's lives better. So we're going to talk about the armed robbery, we're going to talk about the more thefts we've been having, and we're going to discuss how information is released, and then we're going to cover what your town is doing to keep you safe, some of the things that you might not be aware of. First off, I've got the usual spate of announcements. If you're interested and you want to take a deeper dive than we do on a show like this, and you want to come and join us at our Citizens Academy, this is a 7-week program where we open our doors and we show you everything that we do. And selfishly, this is a way for us to show you each one of our departments, all the tools, all the people that serve you, and then also get feedback on what we can do better to improve. So it's a good chance for you to see what we do, but then also offer us some feedback and guidance. If you're interested in that, we do have a link in the description. It goes right to our page. Fill out the application, send it in, and the class, I believe, is starting the second week of September and runs about 7 weeks long. Our roadway safety plan is still open, so if you want, there's a link in the description. Go ahead and click that link and then tell us where we can make roadway improvements, and that part is just about wrapping up. And then 2 things that we want to do to stay safe and stay alert. First is to download the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. This is a guide for all different types of hazards and will allow you to be prepared prior to, help you survive during, and then reconstruct things after an incident. That is, it's usually one of those infrequent but high risk sort of events. But how are you ever going to find out about this? Go to our CWS page, Community Warning System. That's on the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff webpage. There's a link in the description. That'll allow you to both register for these alerts. You can also register for our NICSO alerts, but you can also download that great wildfire preparedness and evacuation guide. One of our lieutenants, actually the chief over at Lafayette PD, along with some of his partners over there, were very instrumental in putting that guide together, and they know about fire and fire response. So download that guide, give it a view, throw those guides in a drawer, and that way you'll be prepared. This is a live show, so if you have questions, I'll be monitoring the chat. I'll just be going back and forth from one screen to the next. But ask the questions in the chat. If it's something that I can answer during the show, I'll answer it. If I need some time to research it, I'll answer it after the show. And if I'm unable to answer it, I'll tell you why I'm not able to answer that question. So today was a special day for us. It's a day that, frankly, we all look forward to here at the police department. It's a day for us to go to our schools and welcome back our students. So the first day of school, typically you'll see officers at each one of the schools in the morning. And it's our way to welcome the students back, say hello, and show our appreciation and how big of fans we are of our schools and our teachers and our students. Here you see Officer Tinajero on the left and then Officer Megan Morales on the right. Those are your school resource officers. Those are the high school officers that stay at the school. So these are there with your kids at the schools every day, and their number one priority is to be there for the safety of the school. Secondary, we ask that they are mentors and they work through some of the, if there's a crime, they'll address those. But their number one goal and the primary reason they're there is for the safety of that campus. Just to touch on that a little bit more, I actually once a year when I present our annual report, when I present this annual report to the town council, I'm actually able to give our town council a high five if I can respond to priority 1 calls. Those are the most serious calls. I get to give them a high five if I can respond in under 5 minutes. Okay. So when we have officers that are at that school, the response time becomes 0 minutes. And so they're there. So kudos to both of those ladies for stepping up and volunteering for that position. It's a worthwhile position and they do a great job there. All right, I'm going to check the chat real quick because I think I saw a couple of things come in. Okay, I see some. It keeps slipping on me here, Eric. I'm going to get this. Okay, so Eric, good question. I don't have the video. So Eric is asking, not sure if anyone pinged you, but people on Nextdoor were curious about what they were calling a sideshow at Sycamore Park over the weekend. Danville police on site, but seem to be mostly directing traffic. Video on Nextdoor, maybe next episode. So I'll talk about it now, but one of the things, and this has been ever since I've been a police officer here in the town, and it's really anywhere that I've been in law enforcement, is we tend to play this game where we know that during certain times of the day, we need to check certain areas because crime is going to be more prevalent in certain areas. So during the lunchtime and dinner time hours, where do you think we might be? We might be at the Livery, the Town and Country, downtown, clock tower parking lots, those areas where there's a large group of cars, because we know that there might be more crime with cars. Now, at night, in the middle of the night, that's when we're more in the neighborhoods because we're concerned that people might try to break into your car as it's parked in front of your apartment, in front of your house. We're also going to go to our parks and our closed businesses because we know that oftentimes when we have a business that's broken into, it's broken into overnight, and we're going to check the parks. Now, we've got a lot of parks, we've got a lot of businesses, and certainly we've got a lot of residences here in town. So our officers are doing that, but also we'll have our volunteers and police service, and they will go and check those areas as well. So ever since I've been here, at night, usually on the weekends, you'll see groups of people, usually kids, congregating. This one happened to be at Sycamore Park, and we've actually seen it on both sides of Sycamore Park. And if you're not too familiar, Sycamore Park has two parking lots, one on each side, and they're mixed-use parking lots, meaning that they're serviced not just by the park. So it's not like Hat McGee Park, where the only purpose for that parking lot at Hat McGee Park is to service the Danville town facilities. And that's why you'll notice we have a gate on there. We could close it at night if we wanted to. But with Sycamore Park, you've got a post office, you actually have our service center, you have a daycare, you've got a church, you've got you have a synagogue, and then you have an elementary school. So those parking lots are open. When we talk about park hours, we're usually talking about the actual park itself. So we're not talking about the parking lot, we're talking about the park. Our parks here in town, for the most part, by ordinance, are only open during daylight hours, and that actually excludes Sycamore during activities where they're using the lighted ball fields, so like baseball and soccer and things like that. In this particular case at night, there was a large group of people up there. Our officers got a call. Several people called in, so frankly, kudos to all of you for calling it in. Our officers went there, and what I want them to do is I want them to make the best decision given the circumstances that are in front of them. I don't give bright line direction to them. I give them objectives and resources to handle those. And I expect that they are going to be professional, autonomous deputies that go out into the field and make those decisions. For that one, their decision was to allow people to leave the park, but do it in a way that was safe. And from the video that I saw, it didn't appear that this was what you would typically classify as a sideshow. In other words, where there were people doing donuts and things like that. But again, I only saw one video. It doesn't show the whole story. I do know that. And so our officers stayed at the intersection to make sure that with that volume of traffic leaving, that there wasn't going to be a conflict with cars on the road. And so that was the decision they made. And it looked to me like there was a fairly orderly exit on that. And I think they did a good job. But what that tells us is that we need to increase our patrols at the park. I actually got a great letter from a resident, and I've been playing a little bit of phone tag with him, but he actually gave me some suggestions, and really I was going to type an email back that said that is exactly the plan that we have in place for it. And but I will connect with him. But essentially it is to increase our presence and patrol there. And then if we notice criminal activity, if we on view it, if we see it, then it's to take action on that. So if we were to have witnessed someone doing donuts in the parking lot, the expectation is that the officer would take some type of enforcement action on that. All right, so I hope that answers your question on that one. And it looks like I've got Tina, thank you for the compliment there. We appreciate it. The presence at the high school is what she's commenting on, and that's a cooperative effort between the district and the police department, and we believe we've got a good relationship with them that helps us keep those schools safer. What's the plan? Well, Cecilia is asking for the plan to help keep the community safer with all the robberies in town. I'll cover that later on in the show. Any idea if the drivers of the cars were adults or teens? It appeared as though most of them were teenagers. They were really from the area here. All right, so let's move on. I actually have one improvement. So you may remember, and this is back in March, April, we covered a problem that we were having on Diablo Road. It was a traffic problem, And what we say is that when there's a traffic safety issue, we've got three things that we can do. We can educate the public on how to drive safely, how to use the markings and the stop signs in the roads, not to use your cell phone while driving. There's an education component. There's an enforcement component. We all know that's the red and blue lights. That's the cops out writing tickets and warnings and doing those things. But there's also an engineering component. And it's important for all of you to know that in addition to your roadway safety plan, where I'm asking for you all to make your little submissions and tell us where you want us to improve, we also do our traffic officers work with our transportation engineers. And so let me throw this slide up real quick. So on Diablo Road at Matadera, what we noticed in the morning hours is high school students were going the wrong way on the road. And what was happening is that yellow line represents a backup in traffic going towards Mount Diablo. The red line is the line, the path that these drivers would take. And you could see that as they went into the turn lane, they were then effectively going the wrong way as they were trying to go onto Matadera and cut through to go to the high school. So this is absolutely dangerous. These are cars going the wrong way. And we can go out there and enforce that, but it's going to be effective only for a short period of time and only for the time that we're out there. And so our engineers got with our traffic officers, and they came up with a plan. And it's actually a simple plan. It's not rocket science, but our engineers are very good. And kudos to our town maintenance staff for getting this in place prior to the start of the school year. But they just put these delineators in, and all it does is it makes it so that it provides a little bit of a barrier to say this is not the area that you want to cross. So good job. Our traffic officer was out there for the first day of school today and said those delineators worked absolutely perfect and did a great job. I talked about this last week, but I just want to provide you a recap. Your police department and your fire department work together on Thursday, August 4th to do some consolidated training. This is where we do active threat training, where you'll see that police and fire work together, and we train on moving together so that we can work to reduce active threats. We also do command post work there, where we learn and work on our communication so that you can be assured that when there is an incident, that your police and fire will work together. We will work quickly and swiftly to make sure that we do the best we can to keep all of you safe and make sure that this is, that everything is safe here. So that's what we have there. All right, now we're on to the blotter. CommunityCrimeMap.com. That's where you can get all your information. We download data there all the time. As a reminder, the interface has changed. So if you're having trouble accessing some of the data, you can always shoot us an email. We can have someone walk you through it. But just notice that some of these symbols have changed a little bit. If you go here, August 1st through 7th, first off, Captain Chris Sherry, our Dublin area commander, actually scolded me, I'll say, because last week, if you remember, I said we had very, very low crime in the town. And there's this unwritten rule in a police station that you never say it's quiet. You never say there's no crime. You never say that. You just quietly acknowledge that you're having good days. And you don't do that because it inevitably jinxes you. And sure enough, if we look, we had one robbery, we had one burglary, and we had 6 thefts. And we'll just go over them real quick. On August 3rd, a wallet was stolen from someone's purse while they were shopping at Trader Joe's. And to cover the crime prevention tip on that, we talk about it quite a bit, is if you're going to wear a purse, make sure it's got some sort of enclosure. Try to wear it on your person. Don't keep it in a cart or anything like that. Our best advice is just to bring like maybe a phone and a few cards with you, put it in a pocket. That is a behavior modification that you can make that'll limit your chances of being a victim. So that's something you can do. On August 4th, we had a residential burglary on Shirley Drive where property was taken. And then we had a bicycle stolen from inside a garage where the door was open on the 600 block of San Ramon Boulevard. We had another bicycle that was stolen on the 4th behind the Smart and Final. Some kids went down to the creek and fishing, and when they came back, their bike was gone. On August 6th was the armed robbery, and I'll cover a little more details on that in the next slide. Also on August 6th, we had a purse that was stolen from inside a vehicle on the 400 block of Lagonda Way. And then we had some mail that was stolen on Neva Court. And then on August 7th, down at the Best Western, we had a suitcase that was stolen from a locked vehicle in the parking lot. As far as the crime tips on that is it's really, if you, and we've talked about it with the lock it or lose it sign over my shoulder here. If you're going to leave property somewhere, you have to lock it, hide it, something, right? So if it's a bicycle, we really recommend locking it to something sturdy, and we recommend those larger U-locks that are much harder to cut through. When we put our bait bikes out there, the bikes with the GPSs on them that we use to proactively work towards curbing that crime, we will actually just put a cable lock on it because we know they're pretty easy to defeat. So that may prevent the opportunistic thief, but the person that's actually out there looking for your bike, the cable lock's not going to do much for that. On the property in the car, that one, if we just leave it out of sight, even if you don't have the option, if you can cover it in some way, put it in the trunk, under a seat, something. And what you don't want to be seen doing is, as you're parking, putting it under the seat here or under the seat there, because then it signals someone that may be watching that whatever that is, it's certainly worth taking because it's worth hiding. So we recommend hiding those items before you get to your final location. All right, let's talk about the armed robbery. So this was on August 6, 2022 at 2:44 is when we received the call. It was in the Livery shopping center. And what was reported to us was that 3 armed suspects stole a watch from a victim. They used force and fear to do that, which makes the theft a robbery. So that's when you take someone's property by force or fear. One bystander tried to intervene as they saw the robbery, and they were struck by the pistol, and that's using the pistol as something to batter the person with, not with the gun going off. As the suspects were fleeing, one suspect fired a round that did not strike anyone, and since that case has been reported to us, investigators from both the sheriff's office and the Danville police have been working that case nonstop. So there's been a lot of effort in that case. All right, so I'm going to go on to traffic. So for traffic, I really don't want to jinx us on this one, but August 1st through 7th, we had no reported collisions. So there may have been, and I've talked about this before, not every collision ends in a report. The ones that we take reports on are typically where there's a dispute, where there's an injury, or maybe a crime like hit and run or DUI. You'll notice in the annual report, and you can find this on the Chief's webpage going back about 5 years worth of these, you'll notice that we report on the total number of accidents. So even if we don't take a report, we will still report on that in our annual report, so you will know the ultimate total of accidents that have been reported to dispatch or the police department here. All right, so I'm going to check here and see if there's any questions. And it looks like, so Gary is saying, understand we had similar jewelry robbery in Hayward. Suspects were apparently apprehended in Oakland. So I'll kind of cover all the robbery-related questions together. But Val has a question. If you see an abandoned bike outside a schoolyard and is there for days, whom should we report? Not sure if it is stolen, but it is at Green Valley near the Iron Horse Trail. Okay, well, you've just reported that to me, so we'll send someone out to go check it out. If it's unlocked, we'll collect it. We'll run the serial number, and we hold on to that property until we can find the owner. Sometimes you'll see, like on Nextdoor on Facebook, we'll actually post general descriptions of the bike so that people can maybe further describe it and we can connect them to their bike. Because sometimes we may get someone that steals a bike, they take it to another location, they drop it there, and nobody really knows where it is. So that's a good one, Val. So I appreciate you making that report. Oh, Laurel. So Laurel has the question, did we find out from Andy why we lost our left turn arrow at Diablo and West El Pintado? So they are actually doing a pretty large project right there, and we'll cover it in a future show. But they've got some signals that they're going to put in there that what they're hoping will do will be more clear and create less confusion. So I don't want to give you a partial answer on that, but they are working on that. They know that there is a hazard there, and we hope to present that in the next one of the future shows here. Okay, I think the only question is, what did they look like? And I'll cover that in our how we report. And I'm actually going to lead that right into our next segment. But also, Laurel, I did get your email, all of it. And here's where I'll self-report. Laurel is a very, very nice. And she sent me an email, and she had some information in there. But I want to kind of just be open about one of them. One of them was a complaint where there was a crosswalk where she and another lady were going to cross. And as they started to go in, they noticed that one car had stopped for the crosswalk, which is what you're supposed to do. And then she saw another car drive by, not stopping or yielding for the pedestrians that were starting to enter the crosswalk. And that car was one of ours. It was a cop car. So Laurel, I appreciate that. A lot of people don't give me that feedback. That feedback's important. Laurel, what I do with that is I actually take it to our supervisors and I take it to all of our deputies, and it serves as a good reminder. We're not perfect people. We do make mistakes, and it's important that we know that this is the perception, and we need to make sure that we're doing a good job too. So, Laurel, I know you sent me that in an email one-to-one, and you didn't want it on here, but I wanted to make sure that you know that it is something that we take serious, and I appreciate the courage to tell me, hey, I think you guys missed the mark on this and didn't do this right. So I do appreciate that. All right, so now let's talk about information, because what I want to clear up is that there's going to be a difference. Like when we watch a movie, right, we get taken along for the ride. And that's what makes them exciting. And then the writers that write these movies and shows, and the directors, when they put them on, they're having us glued to the screen. And it's interesting and it's riveting. And what's great is you're along for the ride the whole time. Unfortunately, we can't, and it would be improper to give information out in that way. And so I kind of want to cover the different stages that we see an investigation in, and when we release information, and why we release the information we do. And frankly, some of it is because it's the law and we have to, right? There's a Public Records Act request, and we've got policies that mirror that. And we want to make sure that we are very consistent in how we do things. And we want to make sure that we're not playing out our cases in the public, right? There's a format for that, and that's in the court. So we want to make sure we're doing that, but we do comply with the law and our policy. But I hope that by going through this, you'll have a better understanding of why we put information out. All right, so let's take a look at the 3 stages. The first one is the initial report, and this would be simply what happened. This is the police department telling all of you what has happened. And the 2 major parts here, and this is what concerns me, is if there is a call to action, if there's something I need you to do as my partners in community. And so that's going to be a community warning. This is the, there's a safety issue. So this could be, hey, there's, the police have chased someone in an area, right? So we might put out a call to action, say, hey, we've chased a stolen car. It's in this neighborhood. Can people shelter in place, report suspicious activity? That's a call to action for something for you to do. It can also be, maybe the case is cold, right? The case has already happened. So maybe, and you see it all the time on the show here, right? If there's a burglary and we need help in identifying a suspect, right? We need your help. We might put the picture out and say, this is a picture of the person. This is what they look like. Can you help us identify who this is? And even in that case, we're very careful because we don't want to humiliate. That's not the goal. The goal is to locate and find that person, advocate for our victims, right? Because we work for our victims, and hold that person accountable. It's not to publicly shame people. And that's why we ask you, if you're going to give us tips, if you're going to give us information, give it to us, email. Don't put it in a chat like this. We don't want to do that. That's not the purpose. We believe everyone deserves that dignity and respect. But that's how we will ask for your help. And so let's look at the second part. And this is the part that's extremely intensive for law enforcement. And this is the actual investigation. And this is the television show. This is the movie. And this is where what you don't see is you don't see the amount of effort and work that goes with your police department, your sheriff's office, working with other agencies. It's important to keep the investigation going. Law enforcement in this area, we are working on behalf of the victim. And so we will communicate with the victims of the crime. We may not give them everything because we have to be very careful not to harm the investigation. The best thing we can do, the best thing your law enforcement officers can do, is take that information, devote as much resources as we need to solve that crime, and in the end, have a solved crime, maybe recover property, and bring a case to the DA's office that is worthy of prosecution, that holds people accountable. And I'll explain why that's important when we talk about what your police department is doing to prevent crime here in town. But then let's talk about the third. So the third is this investigation is now complete. So we've closed it. We've turned it over to the DA's office. And what we have to be careful of is we have to be careful not to try the case in public. So what you don't see is you don't see a long story detailing the facts and the details of the case. It's simply we would restate what happened, that there was a vehicle that was stolen at this location, and then we would state the actions that we took. We arrested person A. This is how old they are. This is where they live. We prosecuted them. They're being held on X number of dollars of bail. That's where you get that information. But the proper place to try that case is not in public. So you don't see us trying to put out a lot of information on the middle part there. And that's where we leave it and we pass that case to the DA's office. And then if we're going to try that case, we do it in the proper form, which is court. So that's how we release information. So if you have a question on that, throw it in the chat. But I do want to go over, and I feel like I beat this drum too much, but I want to go as part of our final thought. I just want to cover that crime prevention triangle because it's the bread and butter of everything we do. We talked earlier about the gathering that was at the park, and it wasn't a sideshow, at least from what we saw. But if there is even an event like that, we use the crime triangle for that, right? So in that case, let me throw the crime triangle up real quick so we can take a look at it. So let's just take a look at the crime triangle, how we would apply it to that parking lot. So we've got offenders. We have people that are doing wrong. We've got a victim, which is frankly the entire community when an event like that happens. And then we've got the location, our parks and parking lots. And so we look at it, okay, is there something we can do for that motivated offender? Is there a law enforcement action we can take to hold that person accountable, to correct the behavior so it doesn't happen again? We can go that route. Is there a location issue? Is there not proper lighting? Maybe we should put cameras up there. In fact, we actually do have a camera up there. So are there things from that standpoint that we can do? Is there motion lighting we can put up there? Is there, maybe we have too many bushes and trees that obscure sight, so all of you that are on Camino Tasajara can't see in there. Can we take an action there? And then finally, it's engaging all of you to keep you from being victimized and saying, if you do hear or see it, call us so we can get people out there right away. I hope by the video that you saw on Nextdoor that certainly there was a police response and we did take some action. All right, so let's look at this. What is your police department doing for you? Oh, let me go back. There's two prongs to this, and you always have to look at your police department and public safety in two different buckets. One is preventative, and one is reactive. And we usually, our bread and butter is the reactive side. That's investigating. That's once a crime happens, that's our response to it. And we understand that the main goal is to investigate the crime, identify the people, and hold them responsible. We know that by holding them responsible, they may be removed so that they don't have the opportunity to commit crime again. Also, we know there's a community effect that says, hey, Danville Police Department and the town, all of you, are all in alignment with public safety, and we don't tolerate that here, so don't do it. And so this is where your community support really helps me do our job to support all of you. So that's on the reactive side. But we know that the more effort we can put on the proactive side, frankly, the crime triangle, the better off we're going to be, because then we reduce the amount of victimization. So let's look at it. So on the motivated offender side, so we seek to solve all the cases we can, and we vigorously request prosecution on behalf of our citizens. And we do have some technical things in place. So we do have patrols, and I talked about them earlier, where we know where crimes are more than likely to happen. So we try to saturate those areas throughout the day. We also have an automated license plate camera system where we can put known offenders plates in there, stolen cars, things like that. So should they come into town, we can immediately respond and saturate the area. So we do have some things that we can do for the motivated offender. All right, so next we're looking at the location. And so this is an area where, unlike the motivated offender, you and I, we have a greater amount of control. So in our public spaces, your Danville maintenance team is absolutely phenomenal. Every time I'm riding my bike to work and I go down the road and I see them cleaning the road, the trees, trimming the bushes back, that is crime prevention. And then when I drive through your neighborhood and I see, good lighting, and I see the trees and the bushes are cut back so that we, as good residents, have sight visibility to see when bad things are happening so we can see and then say something, I know you all are doing a good job. And frankly, when I read all of our reports that come through and I see that, Bob's house was vandalized and he's got camera footage, and someone's house was broken into or their car, and then we've got camera footage. That's kudos to all of you. So from a location standpoint, Danville does very, very well. From the target or victim, and that's our third leg of this. From our target or victim, this is where we're always working on it. And frankly, you all do an excellent job. Crime is not historically low in the town, and you can go look at the stats. There's stats in our annual report, but you can also go to the UCR on the FBI's database, and you can compare our stats to ourselves over the years and any other city in the area. It's extremely low. All right. And that's not solely the police doing their job. That's all of you doing an excellent job. So on the victim side, this is why you see signs that say, if you lock it or lose it, hide your stuff. A kind of a quick story, not to go too deep, but I hope this drives a point home of how good of a job you're doing. I used to go to the parking lots and I would ask my team, if you see something like a purse, a wallet, a phone, if you see valuables where someone would steal it, I want you to run the plate and call the person and let them know, if I were a thief, I would have stolen your wallet, your purse, your backpack, whatever that might be. I sent one of my sergeants down to one of our parking lots, and he said, Chief, I'd be calling every other car, just literally every other car. And our detectives would always ask me, can we do a bait car? Bait cars where cops put property in a car and we watch it. And I said, you don't have to do a bait car because the residents of Danville put plenty of bait in the cars. We just need to watch theirs. I'm happy to say that when I do walks through parking lots, when our staff and our investigators and our crime prevention specialists, when they do walks through parking lots, we're seeing way less stuff sitting in the cars. No gym bags, no wallets, no phones. So all of you are doing an excellent job at making small adjustments to your behavior that lead to reduced victimization. Small adjustments can lead to reduced victimization. And that's all of you. Now, here's the bottom line. 100% of the responsibility for a crime that is committed belongs on the suspect, period. You should be able to wear what you want. You should be able to drive where you want. And you should be able to go where you want, unobstructed, free of being a victim of crime. What you pay me to do, though, is identify trends and let you know. And so this is when we talk about the communications triple, the three pillars of communication. This isn't that first one. This is that call to action. This is me saying, here is a trend. You can do things that can reduce your odds of being victimized. And so when we tell you that there are people, and this is not unique, you can just do a Google search for watch robbery or Rolex robbery. Just a simple Google search online will tell you that there are people that are violently attacking or picking people out based on their watch. And so if you want to reduce your chances of being a victim, you can curb that behavior. There is something that you can do. And again, this is not victim shaming. You should be able to wear that watch. You should be able to dress how you like and go wherever you like, whenever you like. I'm all on board with that. I'm just simply saying, if there is a small behavior modification that we can make, we can reduce the amount of victimization. Your police department, when these crimes happen, will 100% absolutely go and devote resources to resolving this. This is the great thing about being a member of the sheriff's office is, as these crimes happen, we've got a handful of detectives down here. I immediately doubled or tripled my staff because the sheriff's office sends resources right away. And we've got a lot of people working on this. These are very important cases to us, and it's very important that you know that we are working hard to resolve these cases and hold those people accountable. All right, I'm going to check the chat. If you have a question, this is the time. All right, I think, this is great. Is this based on the SEPTED method? So it's very interesting. So on the location part, so if I pull up the crime triangle again, I'm very glad, Cook, that you brought this up because you covered a part on my notes that I actually missed. So SEPTED is called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, and it is where you engineer, kind of like we talked about those roadway delineators, designing for a safer traffic situation. You can design your home, and I don't mean moving walls. I simply mean landscaping, lighting, cameras, those sort of things, in such a way that it will make it less likely to be a victim. It's not a suit of armor, but it'll make it less likely to have your home be a victim. And so what we do on residential burglaries and commercial burglaries is we actually just rebrought that program back, but we'll reach out to people that have been victimized, and we will attempt to offer that service. So what we'll do is we'll just go out and we'll do a site survey, and we'll do it for people upon request. We've done it for schools, we've done it for homeowners associations, we've done it for houses, and we've actually done it for businesses as well. So sorry, that is the SEPTED method, and we do that. And the other thing, and I put this in my notes because I wanted to highlight them, when we talk about our parks and we talk about like speeding on Camino Tasajara, and we talk about crime happening like in the Livery or our Trader Joe's shopping center, every night when our volunteers in police service, our VIPs, those are the white shirt volunteers that drive around, they come in, they're like, hey, Sarge, hey, Chief, where would you like me to go? And we tell them, do laps on Camino Tas, go in the Livery, just go through the parking lot a bunch of times, and then go to Rose Garden and go to Town and Country, and just keep hitting them and show an elevated presence. And so that, coupled with our officers doing the same thing, we hope has a good effect on that. So Sue asked the question, did they catch the guys that ripped off the guy's watch at the Livery? So we are still working that case. That case is open. So when we have a resolution on that case, we'll put out more information on that case. All right. So that is all I have, but I do want to cover a couple of our quick messages again. Let me actually go to the front because I get these up here. All right. So again, our Citizens Academy. So if this interests you, or maybe you want to learn more about the police department and provide feedback to all of us and say, hey, you know what? I've got special experience in this area and that area. We realize that as law enforcement officers, we are generalists, and we specialize in law enforcement geared solutions, but we can also think outside of our own silos. And when we get accountants and engineers and those types of people that come into our Citizens Academy, sometimes they come up with some pretty creative solutions. That's all of you. So Citizens Academy is a great way to learn what your police department does to serve all of you. It's also a way for you to provide feedback to us on what you can do. And if it's not cool to see a sheriff's helicopter, I don't know what else, but usually we go out and we check that out, and that's pretty awesome. Our local roadway safety plan, if you want to help out and make your road safer, link in the description. Just pick a dot, pick an area, and tell us what we can do to improve. And 2 things I want you to download. Just download this FEMA all hazards checklist. These are high risk but very low frequency events that you just want to have some preparation in place for, and then you want to be able to have a reference document that should something happen, you can go to it and get some quick tips on what you can be doing. And then if you're ever wanting to know how to find out, you can always how to find out about an emergency, you can always go to Nixle. You can send 94526, 94506. You can just send that as a text message to 888-777. Directions are in the description, but then you can also go to our community warning system, the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff Community Warning System, and you can register for that. That's how we're going to let you know when the big disasters are happening and what to do. And you can also download our wildlife preparedness guide, and that has some things you can do to be prepared in case of a wildfire, and then some action steps you can take should a wildfire happen. All right, looks like a couple more came in on the chat. Sue said she's at hot August nights in Reno. That's good. Come down and enjoy our hot summer Sundays too. We've got one more of those coming up. Oh yeah, Lily. So I don't remember if you remember this, but Lily had pointed out that we had an ongoing parking issue, and this again talks about the engineering solution, right? I can park a parking enforcement officer in an area for a period of time to try to resolve an issue, but an engineering solution will have a much greater effect. And so Lily says you are ordering boulders to block off the no parking areas near Stone Valley Road. Glad a solution is on the way. So what this will do is this will create a design that will prevent cars from parking there. And so it won't harm the safety. So fire trucks can still do their things, cops can still do their things, but it will keep people from parking there and increase the sight distance. If you've ever gone to an intersection, you come up and there's a car parked right on the edge of the intersection, it is really hard to see oncoming traffic. And when you get on a busier road, that can be pretty hazardous. So Lily and her partners up there are pointing that out to us, and we're continuing to work to resolve it. And as we go, we just take a progressive approach. We're going to put a plan in place and check it. And then if we need to adapt it, we'll keep working from there. So Lily, I appreciate your support. I also appreciate your patience. I know this is taking a little bit of time, but our maintenance team is going to be out there and they're going to work to resolve that. So thank you for that. All right. Well, Danville, I'm Alan Shields, Chief of Police for the town. We're 10-10, which means we're off duty, but we're always 10-8 and in service to all of you. Have a good night. Bye, Danville.